We're back. Covered carbs and protein. Now we're talking about fat.
Just lift it out.
Well, my
Fat.
spine for me just pops
Fat.
back in there.
You know my favorite thing about fat? There was a trend in our country for almost the last 50 years where like fat is evil, fat is evil, fat is bad. You see all these treats and cereals and everything that says this is a fat-free. Swedish fish is a fat-free snack, so it's good for you. No, like we talked earlier, simple carbohydrates.
Are they
bad.
protein? Is there fish?
They're definitely not. Well, Swedish, so no. So let's talk about fat.
No, you're right. I mean, listen.
Let's talk about fat.
The word fat immediately kind of just turns people off, like
Yeah.
because they generally associate fat with being fat.
Unless it's pH fat.
Right, pH, which is physically attractive or pretty hot and tempting.
What does PHAT mean?
Pretty hot and tempting or physically attractive. But that being said,
girl.
but generally speaking, yeah, I mean, when people hear the word fat, they're like, oh, I don't want to get fat, so they generally dismiss it. But there's nothing wrong with fat in moderation, and when it's good fat. Fat, like I've said, is an amazing energy source, which is why, like I've said, women have a higher work capacity because they generally have more fat than men.
Right.
We can get as low as 3%, 6%. Women can get as low as like what, 8%?
Yeah.
8 or 9.
8 or 9, and that's like
And then,
on
and
the
then
low end.
shit
Still be
breaks.
healthy.
And then,
Still be healthy.
no, that's I think like 9's the cusp.
Yeah.
That's when shit just breaks.
So there's like a 6% difference in terms of fat. So with that alone, I mean that explains like the work capacity and why I think fat is essential for athletes if they want to perform well. If you're super duper lean, chances are you won't be able to produce power for long amounts of time.
Right.
If you're super duper lean, you just look good. I mean, like let's say for instance, bodybuilders and aesthetic athletes, they look phenomenal and they're athletic in their own right. But if you put them in like a sport,
Well,
that generally,
but that's why they go through those cuts. Like, I mean, a bodybuilder in the off season, he might be at like a 8 to 10%, which in bodybuilding is not that lean.
Yeah.
Right? It's lean for athletes because if you're an athlete, you know, you think like an average running back in the NFL, I think like they're like anywhere between 8 and 10.
Right. And you need that extra little bit of fat, like Julio said, to tap into during your workouts. Because you can't always just eat. Your body uses fat and carbohydrates as energy sources. So you can obviously, exactly.
But for use.
Yeah, you can use carbohydrates immediately, or you hear a lot of people carbo loading where they'll put excess carbohydrates in their body so that they can have excess stores. But if you do have extra fat on your body can convert that into energy.
Typically, the more higher intense your exercise is or training, the more dependent that's going to be on carbohydrates. But when we talk about like carbo loading, like the carbs, you can only store so much carbs, and then it just turns into fat
anyway. Yeah.
And you know that might, I could be botching this, but I think it was like 600 to like 800 calories in the muscle bellies, right? So you talk about like a marathon runner who only eats carbs and doesn't eat fat. They essentially can only hold on to so much carbohydrates and they burn through all the rest of it.
Yeah.
Well, if they're so lean, they don't have the body fat to be able to then tap into that slow, like almost endless reserve of energy. They're screwed. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to have some fat because when we do like the WODs and it's a 4-minute WOD or a 10-minute WOD, that you're essentially burning through carbohydrates. It's pretty cool. What's a WOD? Workout of the day for like the CrossFit, right? Or after like an intense training session at 90 minutes, you know, for the most part you burn through all the muscle carbohydrates.
Yeah.
And if you have fat, all that in between, even though you're not lifting, you're still breathing. Like right now, we just did deadlift. We talked about EPOC. Our body right now is using energy.
Oh, yeah.
We're repaying a 500-pound deadlift right now.
this is my third workout, right?
Yeah.
Technically, I worked out. I got a haircut. Then I worked out with these guys, and now I'm deadlifting again. Actually, the second workout was deadlift intensive, and now I'm doing this again. And honestly, I don't think I've had enough fat today. So like, it's feeling. I mean, it's feeling. My 1 rep deadlift is like 505, 515. This is what? That was 435.
That you did.
Plus, oh yeah.
435. I did 435.
Plus 80 pounds.
And that felt like 95% effort. And is it because it's 95? Is it because I'm tired?
Well, it
Probably
could be because it's your third workout.
I think it's because I have no fat in my body right now.
So lean! You guys saw that.
So lean and mean. No lean. Lean and
So I think that's the number one in fat. But then you have like the hormone production.
Yeah.
You know, they coat the organs so you can like protective.
Right. So anyway,
all that shit.
Fats are not evil. Carbohydrates are worse. But let's talk about good fats. Avocado, olive oil, pick a nut, any nut.
These nuts?
Almonds, pistachios, walnuts, all very tasty, good things. Seeds, pumpkin seeds, chia seeds. What else?
Generally, like you
Anything
said,
that's solid in room temperature.
Yeah.
well, that'd be saturated.
Right, so anything that's solid at room temperature.
Crisco?
Is,
I mean, so there's always outliers.
that's not solid, bro.
Yeah.
That's like
Right. Peanut butter, almond
peanut
butter,
butter.
things that you love.
Any animal product, like, and
Yeah.
it comes down to the whole eat like an asshole thing. Like, if it's a genetically modified fat like Crisco, it's probably gonna sit in your body just like that.
And you're gonna feel like shit. You'll feel